To understand why sexting is a risky and sometimes illegal behavior, you have to start with the basics. What is a healthy relationship? The answer applies to all relationships, not just romantic ones. To some, the answer is easy. It means that we value and respect each other's thoughts, emotions, values, and bodies. To others, it can be very confusing. Can jealousy just mean he loves me really deeply? Once I commit, does she have the right to my body? To run my life? These are good questions. Let's take a look at them. See if you can spot some identifiers of healthy relationships. Healthy partners can talk openly about problems. They listen to each other, hear each other's concerns, and share each other's happiness, but know that they are independent from each other. Certain things can and should be kept private. Things like passwords, security codes, and criticism that isn't needed to support the relationship. Partners in a healthy relationship trust each other after trust is earned over a period of time. Trust comes from consistent, kind, and respectful behavior toward one another. Each partner treats the other with equality and the same standards. Jealousy of time spent with other friends is not trust. Controlling the phone, social media accounts, or bank accounts of your partner is not healthy. It's abusive.
Let's look at some of the factors that didn't fit. Click on the buttons to learn healthier ways to conduct yourself in a relationship. At first, you might think it is healthy to always put your partner's needs first. What's wrong with that? Well, it's a nice idea to be considerate of others. If you are always putting your partner's needs first, that means you are putting your own needs behind theirs. Remember that a good relationship is based on equality, kindness, and trust. Some compromise is natural, but no partner should always have to be the one whose needs are not being met. Consent is required for any physical interaction and can be taken back at any time. What's consent? It's another word for permission.
It is natural and normal to want good communication and intimacy in romantic relationships. Consent for sexual activity must always be a sober, enthusiastic yes. Consent isn't something that just girls give. People of all genders have the right to control their own bodies and make decisions for themselves. A decision to accept a dinner or a date is not consent to have sexual contact. Dressing sexy is not permission to touch or have sex. Dating someone, even marrying them, does not entitle a person to ownership of another person's body. And consent to kiss is not the same as consent to have sex. Silence is not consent, and consent is never forced or assumed. It is freely given, and it needs to be communicated every time. And keep in mind that people can and do change their minds. They can take their consent away. Also, consent to do something once doesn't mean you or your partner consent every time. That is why communication is so important.
So, how do you know if you have consent? Ask. Check in. Say, is this okay? Are you comfortable? It doesn't have to be weird. Silence isn't consent, so communicate. Violence is never acceptable, and no partner ever has the right to force a partner to do anything to or with their body that makes them feel uncomfortable, unhappy, or unsafe. Sexual contact that is unwelcome is abusive and illegal.
Discussions about relationships bring up the issue of boundaries. What are boundaries? Pretty simple. It's what you think is okay or not okay in your relationship. Nobody can define your boundaries for you, but you should consider your deal breakers and communicate them. Abuse and violence should always be deal breakers. That said, here are some things to think about. Will we post about each other? What about access to phones and checking in with each other? How do we communicate if something needs to change? What about our physical relationship? Maybe we should talk about our expectations for how often we see each other and how we continue our relationship with our friends.
Let's look at some of the other factors that didn't fit into the idea of a healthy relationship. Click on the buttons to hear why they aren't healthy signs. Remember all that stuff about being honest in a healthy relationship? That doesn't extend to insults or demeaning words. A relationship cannot be healthy if there is screaming, cussing, or threatening during disagreements. People who really care about each other don't ever engage in physical violence. These behaviors are abusive. If one partner blames the victim for their own violence, that is abusive. Healthy people take responsibility for their behavior and don't deny it or minimize what they've done. Relationships of all sorts require compromise and sacrifice. If one person controls the other partner through threats or hostility, that is abusive. Trying to get your way all of the time is not healthy or mature. Partners must see their lives and decisions as equally important, try their best to make decisions together, and hold each other to the same standards.
These behaviors can occur in person or online. See if you see any unhealthy behaviors in this video.
G morning, sunshine. Wakey, wakey. Text me back. Hey, did you tell your parents about us? Let's skip first period together. Did you get all my texts? Is practice over yet? Where are you at? Are you with your friends? That's LAAAAMMEEE. Capital X, lowercase o, capital X, lowercase o. I love you. JK. I hate you. JK. Are you ignoring me? We're in a huge fight right now. Is this something I did?
I can see your lights on. I'm coming over.
What'd you dream about? Me? I'm lonely. Holla back. Holla back. Let's try something new. Nude pics. Send me some. Text me.
We know the phone and fashions were a bit out of style, but hopefully you saw that it can be necessary to set firm boundaries to prevent an imbalance of control. All of the qualities of a healthy relationship lead to empathy. In its simplest form, empathy is the ability to understand another person's feelings. See through their eyes, hear through their ears, feel with their heart. Easier said than done, right? Empathy is a critical element of successful relationships. Social, romantic, in families, and even in business. In the video, for example, the guy didn't seem to get at all how annoying and controlling he was being. He showed no concern for the girl's feelings. He lacked empathy. Now that you've heard about healthy relationships, what is important to you? On a scale from 0 to 10, with 10 being the most important, drag the words along that scale. Click Submit when you are finished. So now that we have a good understanding of what makes relationships strong and healthy, what does that have to do with sexting? Everything. Sexting is always risky and sometimes illegal. If we have solid boundaries and empathy for our partner, we shouldn't put them at risk. That is the opposite of a healthy relationship.